Next unit here is going to be all about angles and extending that into some trigonometry again. So it's important to start off by knowing how we as mathematicians have decided to represent our angles. Here's what I mean. So when you talk about something like 135 degrees, how do you understand that as a picture? Well, here's how we're going to do it. Whenever you start an angle, you're going to start it at the same place every time. So we've got an X and Y axis set up here. You're going to start your angle every time on the positive x-axis. This is called the initial side of the angle. And if you have then a positive angle measure, you're going to rotate counterclockwise, which is this direction. So every time, start on the positive x-axis. If your angle is positive, every time, rotate counterclockwise. How far do you rotate? It depends on what your angle is. So 135 degrees. Let's think about what that is. Now, that's going to be, well, so 90 degrees plus another 45 degrees. Here's why I'm going to think about it that way. Because as I'm rotating, every time I go from an axis to an axis, I've gone 90 degrees. That's a right angle there. So for 135, I've got to go this 90 plus another half of a 90, so another 45 to right about there. This places what's called the terminal side of your angle. And we're going to try drawing that one more time. So it's going to go a little bit like that. So the 135 degree angle is actually kind of like a journey. You start on the positive x-axis. You follow the path of this blue arrow until you've gone 135 degrees. That gets you to the terminal side of your angle. Let's go again. Here's another example, 270 degrees. Same thing, start on the positive x-axis. Now 270 degrees, that's a 90, a 90, and a 90. So that's 90 degrees, another 90 for 180 degrees, and another 90 for 270 degrees. So you end up, your terminal side goes straight down. So a 270 degree angle starts on the positive x-axis, does a 3/4 turn counterclockwise, and has a terminal side that goes straight down. So the angle is the blue journey, right? Positive 135 degrees, positive 270 degrees. The sides of the angle, initial and terminal, are the two red rays that are drawn in the sketch. So some terminology. We call these angles standard position because they start on the positive x-axis, and to get to their terminal side, you rotate counterclockwise until you get through enough degrees to end up where you need to end up. Okay, let's continue on here. Some of the angles we work with are going to be bigger than 360, meaning more than a full rotation, and some angles we work with are going to be negative. I want to make sure we understand what those mean. Here's what we've got. When you have an angle that's bigger than 360, I want you to take a look at how that angle is put together. So 380, that's 360 plus another 20. So what that means for me is I'm going to start in my standard position, positive x-axis. And for this 360, that means I'm going to go all the way around. That's 360 degrees. I'm essentially back where I started. But I've got another 20 degrees yet that I need to travel. So another 20 degrees, I'm going to have to estimate, maybe something like that. So the way I'm estimating is I kind of know what 45 is. So 20 should be a little less than half that. I think I've actually maybe gone a little too far. But something in this general location is a full 360 plus an extra 20. So that blue journey that you take, the angle has gone all the way around and then a little bit extra. So we have the initial side here, the terminal side there, and then the blue curve represents your actual angle. Let's go again. So 1,260. I want to know how many 360. So 1260 minus 360 minus 360 minus 360. Okay, so here's what we got. This 1260 is a 360 plus another 360 plus another 360 plus 180. Here's how we're going to show this, and here's why it matters. I'm going to show starting at the same place every single time. Positive angle, so I'm going counterclockwise. Each 360 represents a full turn. So here's one 360, a second 360, a third 360. Okay, so now I've done one full turn, two full turns, three full turns, and now another 180. Well, 180 is going to be another half a turn. So another 90, another 180. Ends me up right there. So the terminal side this time goes straight across to the other side. So this ends up looking like a straight angle. The terminal side is exactly opposite the initial side, but we've spun around 1, 2, 3 full times and then another half time to get there. It is important that you keep track of how many times you've gone around because it does sometimes make a big difference. When you got a negative angle, really nothing changes except you're going to spin in the other direction. So a negative angle means we're going to spin clockwise instead of counterclockwise. So initial side, always start at the same place. That doesn't change. Negative 60 degrees just means I'm going 60 degrees in the other direction, in the clockwise direction. That's going to be about 2/3 of the way around there. So something like that. There's your negative 60-degree rotation. Thought we were going to make it without having to turn the lights back on. All right. And now let's take a look at the negative 320. So this is one of the things you only get better at with practice. What we notice is the angle's negative. Okay, so we're spinning clockwise. And now 320, that's not yet 360. So we're not going to make it all the way around. The question is, how far do we go? So I'm going to say here, okay, so 320, that's 40 degrees away from 360. So as I do my journey, I want to go almost a full turn, but I want to leave 40 degrees undone. So negative 320, so a negative 90, negative 180, negative 270, and then about another negative 50 will get us to about right here. So it's not a full turn because that's not a full 360. This leftover bit, that's that remaining negative 40 degrees that would have gotten us through that final turn. So there's two ways this is going to show up on your practice. For one of them, you're going to be asked to sketch the angle, just like we just did. So here's what I'd like you to do. On a marker board or on a paper, wherever you're doing, do a quick pause and try to sketch this angle. Unpause when you're ready to check. Okay, so always starting in the same place, the positive x-axis. Negative 80 means we're going to be spinning in the clockwise direction. And 80 is not quite 90, so I want to go almost a quarter turn, but not all the way. So maybe something like about that. Put in my terminal side, and there you go. That's your negative 80-degree angle. So the blue curve, that represents the angle, which has those two sides, the initial side and the terminal side. Let's take a look at 450. I'm going to make a note here that 450 is 360 plus another 90. 360, yeah, plus another 90. Okay. So starting at the same place every time. What we have is our initial side. This is a positive angle, so we're going counterclockwise. Now, you're going to need to keep careful track of that. Counterclockwise for positive, so a full rotation, that's my 360, plus another 90, that's another quarter turn. It's going to put me right there. In your sketch, I'm going to want to be able to see both the sides of your angle, initial and terminal, and the curve that you took to get there. Now, the other sort of problem you're going to see is one where it's already drawn. And now you've got to figure out what the angle is. Ooh, these are kind of like little mysteries. So let's see what we got. On this first one, first of all, you need to know which direction you're going. So take a look at how this spins. This is counterclockwise. I'm going to make a note here. That means I'm looking at a positive angle. Next, let's keep track of our full turns. So just trace it out. Here's halfway around. Here's a full way around. Okay, so I've got a full 360. I've got a quarter turn. Okay, so that's another 90. And then here I'm shown, all right, and we've got this extra bit, and this extra bit is another 40. And break it down just like this. Write down your full turns, your quarter turns, and then your leftover bit. Let's add them up. 360 plus 90 plus 40 is going to be 490 degrees. This is what a 490 degree angle looks like. Okay, for this next one, do a quick pause here. I want you to try this one out and then unpause when you're ready to check it. First, check your direction. I see here I'm going clockwise. Look at how the arrow is pointing and how the movement goes. That means it's going to be a negative angle. And now let's keep track of some things. So I've got a full turn. Okay, so that's a 360. Now I'm not going to include the negative here. We'll just put a negative on at the very end. Now a second full turn. Okay, so that's another 360. Plus now this extra bit, so plus that 40. Okay, so 360 plus 360 plus 40, going to be 760 degrees, and I got to remember to make it a negative 760 degrees. Now on your practice sheet, there are lots of problems like this, and so I want you to do them all. This is one of those things where you have to be able to do it quickly and correctly. That's why the practice sheet has so many different problems on it.